The honourable member from Thornhill.
Years of this Liberal NDP government, the Prime Minister's carbon tax is making it impossible for Canadians to heat their homes this winter. That's especially true right here in soon-to-be frigid Ottawa. There are 12 Liberal MPs here, a cabinet minister, 3 privy councillors, 4 parliamentary secretaries, but according to the minister from Newfoundland, all of these MPs weren't effective enough to get their communities a pause on the pain of the carbon tax. Will they make things right and stand with us today and axe the tax, or will they vote again with the Prime Minister and leave Ottawa residents in the cold?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And you know, there was a time when Canadian progressive conservative voters could rely on members of that Conservative caucus for leadership on fighting climate change. In fact, the member from Wellington Halton Hills staked his entire Conservative leadership campaign on it. What he said exactly, and I quote, is, "The right way to do it is to price carbon through a revenue-neutral carbon tax." He staked his entire Conservative leadership campaign on that. Sadly, he lost. But you know, Mr. Speaker, I agree with him when he said we don't have a plan to fight climate change and reduce emissions, then we won't win the next election. That was true in 2019, that was true in 2021, and it's true today.
The honourable member from Thornhill.
If the Prime Minister can pause the pain for some Canadians, then surely he can do it for all Canadians. These Liberal MPs should be demanding that. But they are missing in action. Like the MIA Liberals from the GTA, like that member. Their communities want relief from this costly coalition, but they've been hiding for a week, so I'll give them the chance to show up now. Will the Prime Minister allow the members whose phone number starts with 905 a free vote to take the tax off so their communities can keep the heat on?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what my honourable colleagues could continue to forget is that this policy does apply right across the country.
That's
so
right.
whether you are in the GTA, whether you are in Northern Ontario, whether you are in Saskatchewan or Manitoba or anywhere else in this country, the price on pollution has been removed for those that use home heating oil, Mr. Speaker. It would be good if the Conservatives actually focused on the facts and allowed us to debate climate change and how we're going to fight it, not if climate change is real or not. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good answer.
The honourable member from Kenora.
The Prime Minister is planning to quadruple the tax on heat, gas and groceries, but he decided to pause the pain for 3% of families in areas where he's plummeting in the polls and where his MPs are revolting. The Liberal Rural Affairs Minister has said if others wanted the pause, then they should have voted Liberal. But people in Nickel Belt voted for a Liberal MP, Mr. Speaker, yet they are not seeing a pause in this tax. So will the Prime Minister today allow the member from Nickel Belt a free vote to vote with us to take the tax off and keep the heat on for people in Northern Ontario and right across the country?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I am so proud to be a Northern Liberal Member of Parliament because what I do every day, Mr. Speaker, is I work with constituents who are telling me we need to take faster action on the climate because we are losing acres of forest, Mr. Speaker, because we are seeing droughts, yes, even in Northern Ontario, Mr. Speaker, making it harder to grow food, making it harder to grow our economy. My constituents expect me to advocate for a clean environment, and that's exactly what I'll do.
From Parry Sound, Muskoka.
The Prime Minister plans to quadruple the carbon tax on heat, gas and groceries. Now, he decided to pause the pain for 3% of families where his poll numbers were plummeting and his MPs are revolting. The Liberal Rural Affairs Minister said if people in the prairies wanted a carbon tax break, they should elect Liberals. Well, the people in Sault Ste. Marie, Mr. Speaker, did elect a Liberal MP, and yet the majority of his constituents are not getting the break. Will the Prime Minister allow the MP from Sault Ste. Marie to freely vote to take the tax off and keep the heat on for the people of the Sioux?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative Party, as is often the case, is leaving out many important facts. 8 out of 10 Canadian families actually get more money back in the rebate than they pay in the price on pollution. It is an important part of having a robust plan to address climate change in a thoughtful way. With respect to home heating, it is a particular issue that we can invest in to ensure that we are actually saving money for people as we move forward while continuing to address climate change. The Conservative Party is hiding. They are hiding from science. They are hiding from evidence. They need to have a plan to fight climate change. Canadians expect more.
The honourable member from Stormont Dundas South Glengarry.
Canadians are watching for today's vote on our common sense Conservative motion to take the tax off all forms of home heating for all Canadians. The Liberal Rural Affairs Minister said, though, that if people want a pause on the tax, they should have elected more Liberals in their region. But Thunder Bay did elect 2 Liberal MPs, and yet folks there aren't getting any pause. Instead, the Prime Minister plans to quadruple the tax on heat, gas, and groceries rather than treating them fairly. So the question is, will the Prime Minister allow these 2 Liberal MPs from Thunder Bay to vote freely to take the tax off so people can keep the heat on?
The Honourable House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, the Conservatives continue to spread information in this chamber. This pause on the price on pollution on home heating oil applies right across the country, despite what the Conservatives keep saying. But what is particularly concerning, and I think I speak on behalf of every Ontario Member of Parliament and many Ontario residents, is every time they say common sense, it brings up the terrible memories of the Mike Harris years, when not only did they slash public services, but they slashed them in such incredible ways that led to things like Walkerton. Mr. Speaker, Ontarians remember, and they're not going to elect common sense Conservatives again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from South Dundas, Stormont Dundas South Glengarry.
Here's just how out of touch and tone deaf the Liberals are. When asked if she'd support giving the same pause on home heating back home, their own minister right from Thunder Bay said, quote, "We don't have the same challenges in Northern Ontario that we see in Atlantic Canada," unquote. Well, I visited Thunder Bay last week, and let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, it gets very cold there too, just like Atlantic Canada. And after 8 years of this NDP Liberal government, the cost of living crisis there is so bad, the regional food bank can't keep up with surging demand, now at 12,000 people. Will the Prime Minister let his Thunder Bay MPs vote to give residents fair treatment, take the tax off, they can keep the heat on?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative Provincial Finance Minister of Ontario knows that pensions matter for the people of Ontario. That's why he wrote me a letter asking me to convene a meeting of all the provincial finance ministers to defend our pensions. Will the Conservative MPs from Ontario be equally courageous and responsible in defending the pensions of the people of Ontario and support our effort to keep the pensions of all Canadians safe?
Bravo. I'm going to ask all members, please, especially the member from Battle Creek, Battle River Crowfoot, to please listen to the responses which are offered and to take the floor. And I'd ask all members to listen to that member when that member does take the floor.